It's Movie Time is produced by John DeSando. Listen to the full shows and read reviews online at WCBE.org.
I'm John DeSando.
And I'm Mary Yerina.
And you know, Mary, I'm just not happy with this wave. So, let's do it again.
Do you want me to read?
No, it was good. It was okay. I have it so low so it doesn't squeak. Sometimes it looks like it's not.
Picking up.
Right. Sometimes it looks like it's not working, and it is. So everything is go.
It's Movie Time is produced by John DeSando. Listen to the full shows and read reviews online at WCBE.org.
I'm John DeSando.
And I'm Mary Yerina.
And this is
It's Movie Time.
Now, Mary, you're recently married within the last year, right? Would that be true?
That is a true statement.
And I love Bob Redfield, so you guys have made a good match.
Thank you.
But sometimes you're referred to as the wife. That is somebody who is somebody's wife. A very pejorative kind of the wife.
It can be, yes.
It can be. So this film is called The Wife.
Yes.
And formidable it is, starring Glenn Close and Jonathan Pryce. And
Annie Stark.
Right.
And Max Irons.
Right. And the TV guy.
The TV guy.
James...
Christian Slater.
Christian Slater, right. Christian Slater. Anyway, so it's a terrific cast.
It's a very strong cast.
Mary, the setup, basically.
Well, we join a couple about 40 years into their marriage on the cusp of the greatest accolade in his profession, which is the Nobel Prize for Literature.
Yeah, boy. I love that opening. He just can't sleep because he's waiting for the call.
And they, in his antsiness, they get rather amorous at his insistence, which was a little shocking because you're used to maybe not seeing that right up front in a relationship.
Yep.
But it also kind of was very revealing and sets the tone for the rest of the movie, and quite frankly is very natural. So why shouldn't a couple of that age be demonstrating their affection physically?
Yes, I do like when the two of them are jumping on the bed.
Yes.
Just the way they did when he
enjoy.
Right.
Yeah. Not in the sex, in the joy.
Right. In the flashback, I think they did the same thing when he first got he got his book accepted.
Yeah, his
I
first
think
book,
they were jumping on
published.
The bed, so,
they did.
And there is flashback here, which
yes.
allows Glenn Close's daughter and Annie Stark to play her.
Yes.
In a very fine thing. So, Mary, there's a reveal here that we have to dance around.
We do.
You know, it's a very powerful part of the film. So is there anything exceptional, do you think, about this film?
Well, I will say Glenn Close, who's an actress I've always admired and found her to be very daring in her career, blew me away in this role because she is so subtle in how, as this great achievement and peak in their lives and in her husband's career starts to actually happen, she starts to question their marriage, their relationship, and the role she's played in being the supportive, always there, always taking care of all the other things so that he could focus on his career. And it really starts to eat away at her. And you just see it in very subtle ways as her character goes through this process of the Nobel Prize with her husband.
You know, and as great an actor as Jonathan Pryce is, and he can certainly ham it up with the best of them, you can't take your eyes off of her.
You really
First of all,
can't.
Physically, she has the head of a Greek bust. She has a beautiful head, and her hair very nicely. Yeah,
very classic.
And she, to me, underplays throughout, because this could be a real tear-jerking, yelling, screaming kind of business, as she is an aging woman figures out the secondary role that she plays. and he, in kind of an insipid way, always refers to her as his inspiration, which becomes clearer as the film goes on, that there's much more to this and to her inspiration. And as a human being, she sits there while he defers to her, and while the complete story is not told, and while she, as a human being, hasn't been able to develop. She was gifted as a writer with great promise, I thought.
Yes. And that's completely explored, I felt, very well. So that you understand the dynamic of him being the prominent writer in the family and her taking the role of the wife and the mother and the support for all.
Yeah, very happy to make sure he takes his meds at the right time. I mean, she does a lot of things that I would look at as and say, really, is that your life? Taking care of him?
Well, even to the point where they're celebrating the initial announcement, and they have this huge party at their house, and they're getting ready to take some photographs, and she makes sure that there's no crumbs of food on his lapel or in his beard, and because she has been the one who has made sure that he has looked good in public, and took care of just all those little things that helped him cultivate his image.
And he's, of course, a narcissistic writer. He's
Aren't they all, John?
I wonder. I think that he's really at the top of that category. I mean, and he clearly enjoys all of the hoopla about his writing. Yeah.
And he just assumes that role and loves that public-facing role and can't get enough of it.
And here in Mary, for me, my slight reservation about the film is that so much of it is to be expected. What happens? For instance, his dalliances. He has been unfaithful, and she knows it. Yeah. And she has to put up with it again with this attractive photographer that's following him at the ceremony. And so much of it, even down to the son, played by Max Irons. I mean, I think that they pushed that a bit far.
Well, and I didn't read the book, so I don't know if the book, which is by Meg Wolfowitz, I believe is the author's name, played it that way, and I'm intrigued to read it.
Yes, I know.
Because I somewhat felt it's interesting. This film actually premiered a year ago at the Toronto International Film Festival, which is going on right now, a year later, and it's now just being released in this country. But a lot has happened in the past year with regards to how we as a society look at the male-female relationship. And so I wonder, as this film was being made and those stories were coming to the fore, if there were decisions made by the Swedish director, whose name
Bjorn Runge, something like that,
about how much you portray less of the subtleties and nuances and more of the obvious.
Yes.
With regards to where we are right now as a society, and making those things a little easy. Because I think what wasn't easy was how complex Glenn Close plays Joan Castleman in terms of everything that's boiling just below the surface, and choosing when and how to give us glimpses of it until it comes to, comes to the fore and the emotional explosion. That
you're right, and the way he treats his son, which is not nice, is somewhat to be expected, because he, as the writer, is so self-centered, and he is not going to allow his son, who's just written a short story, to upstage him in any way. And the son just overly played the kind of dour way, which he's, and how many times they come back to that as a police. I got it. The person here whose role isn't being appreciated is the wife.
Yes.
And so I find it a little bit flawed in that way, and perhaps along the lines of what you were saying, some decisions made as to what go for the more obvious, rather than the more subtle. Because this, I couldn't help but think of Ibsen in this. This is so much the realistic domestic story, in which there's so much underneath that surface that is just beginning to come up. And let me assure our audience, it's more than the cliched business that you would expect.
Completely.
It's not that she's going to take off and do something you know, completely different from.
She's not Alex in Fatal Attraction.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and that's
Yeah.
a long way. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a long way away from that. But she's not. So the real interest gradually grows, and I think is fascinating as we find why she has good reason
Yeah.
to be bitter.
Well, and it's great to see an intelligent, well-made
Oh,
film
yes.
for adults exploring a deeply flawed relationship.
Oh, I know.
And those flaws that come forward just are, it just puts it all together at the end.
I think I commented at the end of seeing this that clearly this could have been a play to
Mhm.
me. It's so much. I mean, I love dialogue, and there's so much of it in this,
True.
and so little that's cinematic, actually,
Yeah.
except for you know the flashbacks and so. But you could do this. You could do a stage production of it. But what's really
I can see
important
that.
is the interaction between the two of them, and the subtle revelation of her background, of her reasons for becoming bitter, and also the expose of him beyond his infidelities, just him as a person,
As a person.
and as a writer and so on. And it has a little bit that I like too about the writing process and the help that one can get in a writing process.
Yes. And just even a glimpse at the publishing house.
Yes.
During the time in which they are coming into their adulthood and him into his prime as a writer, the rather cavalier and almost racist arbitrary decisions
Mary,
that were
yes.
made about in the dialogue about, oh, we need a Jewish writer, we need a female writer,
Oh.
we need so that was very revealing and also sets the tone for, you know, when they came together 40 years ago, what was their role like.
Right. Well, she dismisses her possibilities as a writer.
Completely.
I mean, she just understood the environment.
Right.
There was not a place for a female writer.
Right.
And that's, wow. That's,
And Elizabeth McGovern actually has
I love that
a role, a very brief role that exquisitely expresses that. The frustration of being a female writer during that time and not being able to find readers because
right.
of the politics of gender and
Yes.
publishing houses at the time.
which is important to understand why Glenn Close's character has withdrawn from her talent
Mhm.
and supported her husband, because that was just the way it was.
Yeah.
You had to be exceptional like the McGovern character
Yeah.
to rise above that, but still you would be bitter. There's also a theme in here that I like, which is about the cult of personality with the writer.
Absolutely. And completely goes into that narcissism that you
Yes.
described earlier with Jonathan Pryce's character.
Yes.
Of how he actively cultivates that cult of personality that surrounds him. I mean, you see it immediately. The first scene after they learn of the Nobel Prize is a celebration in their home, and who's invited to that and how it's all staged
Yes.
and handled is very much about him cultivating that personality cult that surrounds him.
Yes, and he's good at that.
And he was very good at that. And one interesting thing too, and it actually made me kind of sad, I watched an interview with Glenn Close
Okay.
with Seth Meyer, and he asked her about the inspiration for the role, and she actually said it was her mother, because her mother at the end of her life felt unfulfilled as a human being.
Oh my.
And actually said to her close, I guess approaching her death, that she didn't feel that as a supportive wife and a supportive mother that she had fully lived her life. And that was Glenn Close's model and inspiration for the role,
Wow.
which really made it even as wonderful as I thought it was when I heard that she had such a personal close inspiration or muse for it. It made me appreciate the performance even more, because that had to be very emotional for her to approach
Yes.
the role that way.
Well, Close was inspired
Oh,
and it is an inspired role. I certainly expect to see her in the list of nominees.
I hope so. She has been nominated 6 times, and right now is the longest-lived actor with the most nominations that has yet
yeah.
to receive an Academy Award, and she certainly deserves it. She's one of the finest actresses of our time.
I wonder if her underplaying subtle role here, which is what you and I like, will keep her from getting it. It's not a demonstrative, over-the-top Virginia Woolf kind of world. Anyway, yeah, I'm thinking that might hold it back. It's just not as flamboyant a role. Its strength comes from the fact that it is not.
Well, and sometimes going against, I mean, she's been a very strong actress on screen,
Yeah.
big and small, stage,
Yes.
and has played those big flamboyant
Yeah.
roles, and maybe going against her
Her type.
traditional type or expectation may
Yeah.
sway the Academy. They seem to like that.
Well, all right, Mary Yerina. The film is The Wife, starring Glenn Close. What grade would you award it?
I'm going to give it an A.
Oh,
I think Glenn Close's performance is so worth seeing.
and I'm going to award it an A minus, and that's simply because some of the cliched elements always bother. But I think for our audience interested in fine filmmaking, great drama, great writing,
Agreed.
and unusually good acting, The Wife